Okay, great. I think we are live now. Let me pull this camera here. So you can also come back on whenever you feel ready. I think we are, let me check here as well, the delay. Oh, it's something cut off. Something cut off, but we are live. And welcome everyone. I have been for the last 2 weeks not so active as I wanted to with the live streams, but we are back on it right now. You can join back, same link. Oh, sorry. You can back. Yo. Yes, here we are. Okay, you are ready. Now we're good to go. Sorry,
Nice.
like actually, this is like part of the experience. Every time there's something breaking.
Restream, huh?
Yeah, Restream. Yeah, Restream is actually. Like I'm actually quite happy with the service or like with the product overall. But yeah, like it is not the most stable, I think.
Yeah.
So now, like, this is also like a ritual of me. I always smoke on my streams, but
Nice.
yeah, like first of all, thank you for what?
How does your room smell?
Man, it smells like cigarettes and coffee, and I think this is I like that smell actually. So, like, some people find it annoying, but like for me, it's like when I smell it, it smells like work. So it adds to the work experience and looking in. But yeah, man. First of all, thanks for coming on. So for I think actually you have been like a good guest to have on like on my bucket list, because like with the streams, like I always try to like I obviously try to, maybe you saw, like try to make content and try to do live streams and pretty much around consumer and cool things on chain. And I think you're a good guest to come on, and maybe like you can start by introducing yourself, and then we can just like go through a couple of different topics. I think we can talk about like cool consumer apps, cool things on chain. Like actually right now, Echo is a bit in a hype. Like I would love to hear your opinion on that. Like you coming from investment side of things, and like the couple different things we can yap around today.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. And I think even before I intro, I mean, man, do you remember how we met? We were like,
on the plane,
accidentally on the same plane to Lisbon for like EVE Global. I was like just starting like full time in crypto. It was like pretty early days for me. I was reading some crypto paper on my laptop, and you were like, "Oh, yeah, you're also in crypto." And this is like, what, 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago?
Yeah, it must have been something like that. This was when Ethereum was still cool. Like I remember. But actually, I think this must have been like one of the greater times. Like this was like peak Lisbon hype, peak with the flow and everything. Yeah, 3.5. Crazy how time flies. And like very glad to have made that random connection, and then like we end up like kind of in the same bubbles here in Warsaw and so on.
Exactly. Yeah, so in terms of like introduction, I work at 1KX. We're a generalist fund focused on crypto. I focus mostly on consumer, mostly investing into the app layer. Aside of that, I also am the co-founder of Social Graph Ventures, which was something I started before even joining 1KX, with the thesis that there's going to be immense value accrual on the app layer, and especially when it comes to like consumer use cases. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, I actually like if I remember correctly, back then, or when we met on the flight, or like during that stay in Lisbon, I think you were raising for a social graph or so. Like if I remember correctly,
I was chasing one of my first checks. I really wanted to get Stanny involved, and that's why I flew out there.
Crazy.
Luckily, we managed to raise and raised more than I thought we're going to be able to.
No, it's very bullish. We're also good times. I remember the Rava on the beach there, and Those were good times. But yeah, like actually, let me close this door. Actually, so what I wanted to talk with you today about is obviously consumer apps, and like you have been actually in the consumer space way, or like in the consumer side of things in crypto longer than me. And like I think you saw it like mature and evolve, and like the different phases it had. I think for quite some time. Like given that like you raised for a consumer, basically consumer fund or like investment, what's actually the right term? Like VC for social graph ventures, or like what?
No,
would
it's
be
an
the
investment
right term?
DAO. So it's
Investment DAO.
it's a flat structure. Every member is basically contributing capital, and then that's sort of proportional to their voting rights. So it's not a traditional venture fund, but it's a lot of fun, and you can really like bring in a ton of very smart people, which is super helpful, from like deal flow to actually like having very different perspectives on certain things.
That makes sense. And like also like I feel since then, like what has pretty much evolved was like actually I would love to hear your take on like how consumer apps have evolved from back then to now. Like I mean there has been a big shift. I would say like trading has like kind of played a lot like recently into consumer, and like where I feel like back then it was like it's like very aesthetic, cool experiences you try to build. Whereas now, like, okay, where do I think like over the last 2 years, like revenue has like become like, okay, every app needs to make revenue, and it's and has been like I think pretty much growing in a certain direction. But like you're also in a bit different bubble than me. Like I sometimes see the 1KX tweets, and like I saw you do stuff with music and like that type of stuff. So like you have like I think a way like horizontally wider view on like that ecosystem than me. So would love to hear from your perspective how things have evolved from like back then and like to now, and where do you see like things going, and like maybe how things evolved and why they evolved like that. I think this also makes for great clips, by the way.
Yeah. So I think like, you know, like this has changed, like even predating me and like me deciding to like actually pursue career into like investing into like consumer. I think like very early on, like I'd say like NFT was like the first kind of like consumer primitive.
Yeah.
And it was actually one of the reasons why I went into the space. I was never like a deeply technical person. And I always felt like, what sort of value can I add to crypto? And then eventually like NFTs came around. And I was like, okay, these are like the first sort of initial like use cases. But I think the early days of like NFTs, and there's, you know, very few founders that have like proved it wrong. I mean, like Pudgy Penguins is definitely a great example. It was basically like a capital formation around like trying to attach this like huge amount of like value to what can this like digital asset become, and like basically like trust us, we're gonna like build cool stuff with the money that we raise. Obviously, not many sort of stood the test of time. There's a few. I mean, you know, native IP is still something super exciting, and I think like Pudgy Penguins are executing super well. Some projects were trying to, you know, do games and stuff like that. The vast majority of that flopped. And some around the time when I was getting involved, and like on a full-time like perspective, I think a lot of people were very excited about social graphs and the concept of like basically having a single social graph which like follows you through different apps and different content formats. And I myself, I was like super excited about it. I was like, wow, like it's kind of like this one social graph you'll ever need, whether you want to like do short form video, short form text, whether you want to like experiment with photos and stuff like that. But like your followers are gonna like come with you. And back then there was quite a few projects that were like starting like they were already existing, but like finally like actually getting on some users, and I'd say Lens and Farcaster and CyberConnect to some extent as well. They were trying to do that, and you know there was this like very big promise which I think a lot of builders believed in, and I myself am quite guilty of that as well. Is like a lot of us just thought these open social graphs are going to solve the cold start problem for you. And it's actually it's quite interesting to see how even in terms of like social graph narratives, like how they used to be like, we're going to solve the cold start problem with you. They started like kind of downplaying it and being like, oh, we're going to get you like your first 100 users now. Like, and I'd say like the 22, 23, a lot of like consumer experiments were like, okay, we're going to build a cool app. We're like a good product team, but like we're not really going to deeply focus on growth because like these social graphs are going to solve it with that. And yeah, we were completely wrong because these pies aren't big enough to have, you know, alternative clients for Farcaster. Like it's actually super tricky when you don't have that many daily actives. And I think, like, even in my thinking, it really has evolved to, I think, like, there is still merit to social graphs, but they really have to be like product led at first. You really need to like reach that critical mass instead of like just having this like kumbaya moment of everything's just going to work out, and suddenly, you know, there's a ton of VC raises around like 2024 Farcon, and like people are, and like, yeah, a lot of these projects pivoted out, and I think a bunch of these people are incredible builders, and they're going to find a way, but it's definitely not relying on an open social graph. And you know, even if you look back to like DWeb, the Mastodons of the world and stuff like that, where there isn't really like a blockchain component, but there are also these open social graphs. These things have never taken off either. So it was kind of predictable. That's how it's going to look like. And you can really see it now. Even like, so first of all, it's like, I think Farcaster is a good example. Like, they've really changed their tone. They've like embracing like degeneracy trading and things like that, and really trying to the app. And I think it's actually a brilliant move. Like, that's exactly what they should be doing. And instead of trying to be like this neutral infra. And the other thing I'm seeing is a lot of teams that realize like social features are super important, and they know that like these, like, if they get to the sort of critical mass to actually have like proper network effects, this is an incredible moat. But they're starting with a product, and they're just making it extremely social. And I'm seeing a lot more of that, you know, on the trading experience, which is something that,
especially,
you know, has recently been popping up. You know, these like retail friendly apps, such as, for example, FOMO, or Loop. You know, they're very much like focused on creating something that's creating an app that's fun and is actually very similar to what we've done for many years, is like trading and be in the trenches. But there's the social component is what makes it great. It's the fact that I can follow you, you can send me tokens, like, oh, look at this token, you can call it. There's like a direct incentive for you to be like calling the right tokens, and for me to like follow through and actually invest. And I think that's kind of how like these social networks are going to be established, and trading is kind of one of the closest things to like being very natively on chain, in my opinion.
No, 100%. Actually, can you hear me? I think I was gone for a second. Okay. Yeah. So actually, that's actually one thing I just wanted to touch on when we talked about social graphs, because like I felt like actually pretty recently, like the last couple of months, there has been like this trend where like with one thing, I think PalmFund started it a bit earlier with KOScan, and then like it followed on like with FOMO, and like there's been definitely development in that. So like I feel the one nice thing is like now the social graph is like okay, like it's like a siloed social graph, which is like there's not like you cannot tap into KOScan. Like, for example, it's not like you would need to like scrape their data and like pull that, or like same for FOMO. But like it's like people like build their own social graphs with that, and for people to tap into and actually look into data that they care about. I think also like the angle and like how you communicate it plays a big role, because KOScan and like FOMO is not very different from what has been happening with 0x people, if you remember that. So like, you know, see what people do on chain. It is literally the same like kind of type of social graph, and more focused on trading, communicated around trading. And people want to see that. So like I get like daily notifications, like Frank did God bought this, or like, you know, some people bought that. And it's really, there's actually two things I feel like now, like you have like this like type of social graph, plus it like plays, especially for mobile, it plays so perfectly hand in hand with notifications, which is like I think it makes for more than half of why the retention is good, because like you get just like spam those notifications, and you also don't want to turn them off because you like to see that. So I think this has been a very big move with that, and it shows kind of like, well, like I think that's like still where we are with crypto. It's like I think it's not purely social, but like in a way that like, you know, like lifestyle, or like in a way that maybe other like forecasters tackled it at first. Like it is still pretty much based around trading, and like people like a lot of people come to crypto for opportunity, and it's just like really pushes into that, and it works very well with those type of social graphs. And I see really much angle like for that to evolve. Actually, we're looking into this also with Funny Money. Like, I don't know if I told you, we're working on a mobile app right now, and like one thing is pretty much is we really want to master the notifications game, and like that obviously then you want to see what Frankie Gods does, or like what Shred Guy does, or like those people do, and you really want to tap into that. So like I see that pretty much going. Like I think people talk too little about it still, but like it will happen more and more. And like I think we're right now at the point where like it's like social graphs are important, but like the way like people have thought about it was maybe wrong in the past, and now we're getting to it where like people really want to see it. That's actually very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and then there's the other argument, and I think I had some like heated discussions over on Farcaster with like Dan about it at some point, is the fact that like if you don't make the social graph open from day one, then the actual potential risk of you like leaking users to like other apps is actually pretty high. And it's like, would a very successful social app be able to be keen to actually open up their social graph once they have enough users? And that's also kind of like this unexplored territory. I think there's still like merits to that, but yeah, I mean, there's a reason why like Facebook is not an open social graph. They want to have complete control, and if you have scale, then you probably don't want to open it up. So yeah, it's kind of a big problem, but also kind of coming back to the thing you said about like 0x people, and I'd say interface are in the same bucket. Like sort of theoretically, like I think these are like the closest, like extracting natural like language from like on-chain transactions to understand who is the person behind a specific transaction and stuff like that. Things like Clicker, for example, that are basically like a comments protocol for any of those trading apps potentially, to actually add context to why you're making that trade. It's super interesting. But when it comes to like 0x people and interface, I feel like, what is FOMO? FOMO is in many ways a stripped down version in terms of like it's only focused on like investing into tokens. There's no like NFT minting and not a lot of other on-chain stuff, which actually interface does. But I think they all started, and it's partially because like Apple regulations were cucking them, and they never started as an app that like you actually place the trades. And I think there's like this like just mental lock-in of like you see something on interface, and very often like you actually go to like your main wallet and log in through that. To actually take the trade, and that's kind of they're missing out on capturing that value. But I think they're both really good apps. Like interface is actually great. I picked up a ton of gems from that.
Yeah, that it is very good. Plus, I think people don't talk about it enough is onboarding. So like there has been also like this has been also like a recent development. I feel like that's actually crazy. Like, we have been right in the past about many things where like maybe things could evolve, but like we were wrong with the timing and we were wrong with the angle. Like I think this has been like two things, and also like the some like on a lower level things have been not there yet. So for example, I think a very beautiful thing recently was like payment processors. They have been developing more into like you can use them as headless APIs. So like even like hyped mobile apps like Moonshot at the time. They alert you with like Apple Pay, Google Pay. In reality, you click the Apple Pay or Google Pay, and MoonPay pop-up comes, and you have a whole separate, you need to first register an account and like have the whole separate flow. Now, like you actually got to a point where there's Crossmint, there's Mercurio, there's a couple other of those payment processors where they just say, hey, like just like it is a native experience. You just have to double click on the right in Apple Pay. Natively in your app without a separate flow, and you can use it like this. This like enabled a lot. I think this played a big role for FOMO as well. It's not just that like you now have like not just the like what you see what people do, but like you have the it's like also the thing of dopamine window, or like time to action window, where like you have like the drive to do it, or like place a trade or get money in like for like 30 seconds. And then like you at some point just say, fuck it. Like for me, it was always like this when I saw things on Moonshot, like even I got the notifications or like some is where I wanted to take action, but like then the friction in the basically onboarding UX was like, then just fuck it. Because it's like 100%. A lot of convenience thing. Yeah. And now we actually just very recently with payment processors having those new products got to a point where like, you have Crossmint with headless API product. Mercurio is working on it right now, and like a couple more payment processors. So like now it's still limited because like how they do it is they say, for example, Pengu coin is not a security. It's a collectible or whatever. Like they basically have a set of whitelisted tokens. You can also submit tokens to them to whitelist, and that's actually also how FOMO has it. Is where like you can Apple Pay to specific coins directly, like where you then have like the native UI, and like I think this plays a big role, and like it's also like a bit of an onboarding trick around, because you can then just on ramp like that, then like sell it, and then you have like USDC to buy something else. I think that has been very cool, because like there's no KYC limits of like on average with those payment processors up to $1,000. So like you won't have a KYC like interface to do that shit before you reach $1,000. So that's quite cool.
Yeah, no, I mean 100%, and I think like that's like huge shout out to Moonshot for actually like really pioneering the stack early on. I think like I think like FOMO, like let's say like the stack was 0 to 1 with Moonshot, and then like FOMO just 10x'd it with like the social experience of it. Yes. But I mean that was like really a huge unlock when Moonshot, and I remember like the amount of people that were very much doubting whether this is like compliant and legal back then. A lot of founders were like, yeah, how are they doing it? It's like something's shady here. But yeah, that has unlocked so much. It's so much easier, and now we see it across the board. We see it in like hyper financialized apps, but we see it with apps for like collecting digital art, like rodeos of the world. It's also super simple. Crypto's totally abstracted away. You don't even have to know that you have ETH. You have like these points that are basically representative of a portion of ETH to collect stuff.
I actually don't know rodeo. There's like actually I would love to have like you giving me a bit of lore of like, or like basically giving a bit more of insight on like what's happening in consumer land outside of like maybe what like I think like FOMO obviously a lot of people know right now or heard of right now, or it's starting to trend more. I feel there's like definitely a trend going towards mobile, and I think there will be more such apps coming. But like outside of that, I feel like not enough people know what's happening in consumer land too much, like when it comes to different things.
I'd say we're in this part of the cycle where anything that's hyper financialized is what people want. And that was like the earliest use case of crypto. It's like gambling, and we see this with trading apps, of course, and we also see this with, I'd say like I like to call it like abstracted away casinos, when you don't feel like you're playing a casino, but I mean like Abstract has a ton of these games, and yeah, they've been wildly addictive, and I love a lot of them, but like these games of actual luck, but you feel like you actually have some impact. Things like Def Fun, things like Moon Sheep Cannon, where you're like shooting a sheep on the moon, and like if it goes far enough and doesn't die, you actually like return, like you're actually like multiplying your money. Gacha game, all of this stuff. Like
that's like,
and there's been a ton of them. And I think that's like one thing that I'm seeing like clearly like emerging this cycle, that there's a lot of them, and they're not like straight up kosher casinos. They are like a game that you're very likely to lose money or win money, but it's dressed up as a game. That's like one thing. And I'd say like, yeah, there's a lot more interest and excitement on that side. And we've obviously been looking at these things and doing some investments, but on the other hand, I'd say it's and that's kind of the untreaded path. I think with trading and things like that, there's already very successful companies, and like you might have to change the form factor, be mobile first, like introduce like a brand new primitive of like how can you actually play this financial game. But the untreaded path is actually the non-speculative stuff. And that's significantly harder. But I'd say like rodeo is definitely in that bucket, and is really like sticking to their guns on like, collecting being this like very powerful primitive of you actually doing something that you would do in the physical world, collecting whatever you're collecting. People, I don't know, like I'm mostly collecting on chain, but from like Pokemon cards to stuff like that. And rodeo is about digital art, and I think it's it's an incredible app. It's very beautiful. I'd recommend you test it out. But they're completely going like the hyper gamblification way. They're going full on like these digital assets. They're from great digital artists, and you can own a piece, and it's actually the scarcity is around time. You have to log into the app regularly to be able to mint those things, because they only have like 24 hours, and they're not high priced mints. Like I think that those times are over. There's going to be, you know, a subset of like blue chips, whether it's like certain art blocks or certain like PFPs, the punks, the pudgies, things like that, that will hold value, and you know, they've really established themselves. But over here, it's more of a game of like just trying to be present and catching these things for pretty low price. And I think there's money and like successful businesses to be built around both of these. But I'd say the non-spec off is significantly harder.
But I guess therefore there's the higher upside, like because it's like wherever it's harder, you have like the higher chance, like, or what's higher chance? Like it's harder for many reasons, because like it's harder to like succeed. It's harder to like the likelihood of like, you know, you having like, it's basically a gamble to like, you know, build something and hope for product market fit. Like with many things, and especially like in non-speculative things. By the way, was it called previously Send It Rodeo?
Nope.
Is it that one?
No.
Okay.
It's called Rodeo.club.
Rodeo.club. I will check it out. Rodeo.club. Great. Wait, before I forget it, Rodeo.club. Okay, I got that.
I'd say there's like other interesting things lately when it comes to like consumer that's not like trading only. One thing that I've been seeing, and partially it's like, I think Believe ecosystem, like, you know, you can love it, you can hate it, but it definitely has inspired a very new subset of founders, which are a lot more AI native, which are very young. I'd say like the vast majority of these founders are like sub 18 years old. They're typically
crazy.
Typically like, you know, somewhere in the US, mostly East or West Coast, nowhere in the middle. And they're just incredibly fucking savvy young entrepreneurs that are really understand internet culture and are trying to, you know, build like new social apps around like, you know, AI native content, AI slop, things like that, but are trying to introduce those crypto primitives as like a superpower. And, you know, I've been very impressed with that. Like, that's something that I've been like personally searching for a lot, and we've made some bets here, and, you know, can't announce it yet, but the type of founder that's very young, very hungry, is going to probably like vibe code their first like iteration of the app, and really understands like the importance of like TikTok distribution, Instagram distribution, and doesn't rely on like, oh, someone else is going to solve the cold start problem. They're like real hustlers. I could give you a good example. I think the sperm racing guys, you know, they've like really went like, their distribution is absolutely insane. You know, every large YouTuber, they recently did a sperm race with like KSI, you know, like there's like pretty big names, like the Tom Brady, Sam Altman spoke about sperm racing, you know, unpaid, just as like, this is such a cool experiment, and it's going to leverage eventually some of those like crypto primitives. But obsessing about like distribution first and having a very good go-to-market is something that I feel like is something very new in like consumer crypto.
Yes, I'm actually very excited for like, I think like maybe you too, but like at least I feel like now like I'm definitely now on the older side of things. I'm not like we're not the young kids anymore. Like I especially like over the last year, I had this realization. Okay, like I'm now over the average by now, and like now there is like nothing to learn that much from the older OGs. There's much more to learn from the new kids that come, and yeah, like
100%. It's quarter life crisis, huh?
Yeah. It is.
Scary shit, man.
It is. It's
yeah,
crazy.
No, it's absolutely true. I see so much like innovation and so much like keenness to like experiment with those new things that like we really don't know how they're going to look like really trying to create like an AI app that has like crypto features is some like completely uncharted territory, and what is going to work, what is not, we really don't know yet. But I'm seeing a lot of young people being like very, very, very like crafty and actually like pulling in some really good sort of attention to their projects. Whether that's going to convert into, you know, sustainable businesses, that's to be figured out. I think for us, like as a crypto native like investor and like just being in the space, I feel like when newcomers come, it's about trying to like, you know, really tell them like the etiquette of like what certain like things mean, and like what does launching a token mean, and like you can't just like, you know, leave your token holders and stuff like that, because I feel like that's kind of the missing piece. They're like, what experiment? Oh, like these tokens are pumping and we're actually generating fees from the trading, but they there's some like culture around that of how you should do it and how you shouldn't do it and how you shouldn't. Like,
that's like, I think, yeah, that's one of the few things we can sit, like teach the younger kids, or like what we younger kids is like one of the few
only
things
value
where, like,
add.
only value add. Like, I think now it also it really has to come to a point, especially like AI plays a big role. Like how crafty and how skilled those younger kids are these days is like. It's like there's like from being older, or what means older, being for longer around, many like skills or experience, or like the edge of that is not really there anymore. So it's like pretty much okay. You know the etiquette, or you have been around. Like you have some leverages for being longer around, but like all the like fundamentals don't play that much of a difference. Like by fundamentals I mean skill, or like you know like. Yeah, basically, like, you know, being. I mean, there's so many things that don't play a role anymore. So fundamentals, they like there can be a 20-year-old kid who has like stronger fundamentals than like someone who has been working in crypto for 5 years. It's like the only thing that he's maybe missing is network and yeah, basically network and some etiquette. And that's it. And maybe sometimes you make nice, stupid decisions, but like there's also risk-taking culture in crypto, and it's kind of like glorified to some extent. And crypto is very forgiving. That's like you can, in this industry, you can go to jail, and like half a year later, people forgot. So it's crazy. That's actually very crazy. But yeah, two other things I actually wanted to touch on is like, one thing is, especially like you coming from investment, is and Echo is recently very hyped, and actually like they told me to not. I'm not promoting, but like I'm actually gonna do Echo round with I don't know if I can say. I guess it's with Moonrock, and like we're right now in the preparation of that, and that's one thing. I mean, like I'm not promoting also. Like they told me to not do that. That's one thing, and like there's a ton of hype around Moonrock, and like especially for raising processes, or like I think from a founder perspective, you also know it from social graph, like, you know, you run after certain people. It's like so much coordination. You like, it's so much communication coordination. And now I feel like it comes more to a point, okay, you have like that type of stuff sorted, where you now can just whitelist people and just like forward them, hey, you want to get in, if not, then not. Like, I think this has been like very cool with Echo, and like around that. And I would love to hear your take on Echo. And aside of that, would love to hear your take in general on, yeah, like investments, and like what narratives and like what type of things is 1KX and you with Social Graph focusing on. And you already hinted a bit at it, but like would love to maybe hear that, and like kind of your thesis on the future, or based on which you make decisions.
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, like on Echo, I think like community fundraisers are great. And it's you know, Revolut at some point had like a community fundraiser, which is pretty funny. And a friend of mine who's also a member at SPV, I think they were capped at like $5,000 to invest, and he was at a dinner, and a bunch of people invested, and he actually bought off the allocation from a couple of other guys that were at his table. And he's saying that's like probably his best performing in terms of multiples investment in his life. It was like super early days. I think community fundraisers are great. I think, you know, VCs shouldn't, like, you know, venture is in many ways this like it's your partner that like really weathers the storm. And you know, in crypto, it's very often that you find product market fit and lose it, and then you have to find it again because suddenly there's a meta shift and people no longer give a shit about your product. And honestly, like allowing community, and I'd say at actually good pricing, you should never like try and basically like scam the community and like have a higher price than like a VC round. I think that's actually pretty terrible practice. Is actually a great way to have a ton of evangelists, because you're having people that have skin in the game. They're small checks, and they're here to be like your early users. They're here to like promote you, and I think it's I think it's absolutely critical. And involving community more is an incredible strategy. So yeah, all for Echo, Legion, and all of the other community like fundraising platforms out there. Oh, the other question is like investments. Yeah, I mean, like for me, it's from like investing from like 1KX from the early stage fund, it's really about the founder. And I know it's kind of cheesy and everybody says that, but it's really about finding the founders that can like create markets for themselves and are really down to run through walls. And the thing is, like, if you back a seed project, the probability that they're going to like pivot multiple times is incredibly high.
Of course.
Before they reach PMF. So you're really looking for people that, are not, first of all, like, at least that's how I look. I can't, speak for the rest of the team, but like people that aren't there to, they're not going to die with the idea. Like they have this like idealistic way of thinking of like, this is like the only way to do it. And I'm either going to do that or, and keep going at it or just, run out of money and close the business. So it's about people that really have like, understand like how things are changing when it comes to consumer, what things are attractive. We're seeing a lot of like, right now what I'm seeing is a lot of these like launch pads pairing your ecosystem token with every other token created, things like that.
Perpdexes.
Perpdexes, hell yeah. And then there's basically a bunch of founders that 2 years ago were doing something completely different, or they were actually focusing on NFTs, but they realized actually people like to speculate on like things like, I think FX Hash and like their launchpad is actually pretty interesting for like generative art. FX Hash started as like collecting NFTs, and right now they have like a very neat sort of token model where you're actually able to buy the art tokens itself. Coop Records, another great example, now focusing on song coins and allowing people to like speculate on success of songs. And a lot of songs that were actually tokenized on Coop Records are now like actually like transcending into mainstream. I think most recently like Coop was like writing about like one of like the new Aura ring is like using music that was like tokenized, and they basically like these artists like sign up. This is not like permissionless. We tokenize every song out there. And you can kind of get in early on those trends. So yeah, it's really about being like very, very flexible and you might have like a North Star of what you want to build, but kind of adjusting to what is like currently in demand by consumers.
Yes. No, and actually that's one part, and actually would love to hear your take on another part, which is do things that are not popular at the time, but like having a thesis that like if it plays out could be big. Yeah, I mean, like this has been to some extent my approach. Obviously, we know with mental, like actually now the math actually worked because Bybit now took completely over. But actually, there is a long story to like what happened with it. Like there, I can tell you off camera like the lore a bit more what of like recently what's going on. But like I felt like back then, for example, this was one like bet, and like now. Okay, like we started more or less about 2 months ago, like fully focusing, like blank canvas, what do we want to do, go mobile. And like it felt at that time is not like really like people taught me, man, like why do you do mobile? And it like sometimes I feel like, or like I felt like a bit of a bias of like I don't want to do like what's like, I want to do something that's like I can have a head start before it becomes a narrative. And what do you think of like, let's say a founder comes to you and comes with something which maybe like doesn't make sense of being a trend, like it is not like in the immediate or like right now not a trend and not in the immediate future a trend, but like could be, if true, it could be big. Like what's that type of bets, like where you would say, okay, like for example, sperm racing, I think it's like a good example. Probably no one could have think of this, like this type of things where like you see what you mentioned, create a market for themselves, and like how would you like evaluate sometimes like people and ideas coming with things that like are maybe not, you cannot directly tell if it's becoming a trend, but big if true.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it kind of goes back to what I said is like there's founders that can kind of create markets for themselves. And I'd say like sometimes you got to give the people the mechanisms they want. Like the thing is still the same. You're collecting art, but you're collecting tokens. You're collecting music, but you're no longer connecting it. But then there's a lot of like following on. It's like, oh, we're gonna do like something like Clanker. Oh, we're gonna do something like Zora. I'd say like that's not necessarily always the winning strategy. But there's things that and that's why if we back something in venture, I'd say we're looking at a long-term perspective, and we're looking, we don't partner for a quick flip. We invest into companies with a very long-term view. And and very often we invest into things that aren't like hot things. And very often when we see that something is hot and we see 50 different pitch decks for a new prediction market, that kind of feels like the space is saturated. And you know, I always ask myself the question is like, is that founder really trying to like create something that's going to be an incredible product in that very crowded niche that already has had some fundraising mega rounds, or is that person just trying to chase capital to just, you know, be VC backed? And that also happens. And you really need to, you know, just try and figure out like who's the other person on that Zoom call or in your real life meeting, because there's definitely a lot of that. But yeah, I mean, 100%. There is a lot of wacky ideas and things that people haven't done before, and they're not sexy. And in many ways, like that's the kind of perfect time to start investing, when this is not an overinflated category where like the valuations are crazy, where every like sort of mid-tier VC is just trying to like chase the narrative and, oh, we need to have a bet in prediction markets. And very often, you know, these aren't the best companies out there.
Yeah, I think that also comes down to would love also to hear your take. What like when you look for the right founder, or like, I mean, I think obviously it plays a big role, but like maybe something where like this is something where you can feel there is something there, or like, you know, like how do you tell motivations, or like what type of motivations you look for? I think for me personally, I think there's like financial like motivations, like being venture backed, also like everyone to like, I think like a lot of builders like have been fucking around and finding out a lot, like, you know, grant chasing also. They I think it's like, of course they want money to have runway and like focus on one thing. And then there's like, I feel like a whole other set of women's whole other, there's definitely overlap, but there's like a set of founders, they feel like maybe not so much with the younger ones. Like I don't think the like 17-year-olds or 16-year-olds or 18-year-olds have that yet, but there's like the set of founders, they want to put their stamp on this industry, or like they feel like, okay, like it's not just like I don't really care about that much about like how I raise or who I raise, or like being venture backed, but like I need to put my stamp on this industry a bit. And I feel like this has been like a bit more for me. This is like when I see that people like I'm very bullish on them, because they just try to figure out to have success for like, you know, because they feel they want to be someone in this industry. It's like good to have the chip on your shoulder, I guess. But like would love to hear your take also a bit on that. What you think is like the characteristics, or like, you know, archetypes that like, you know, maybe fit those categories that you look into, or like look at this archetypes you look into. Yeah.
I'd say it's like it's founder upon like different founders, different, like there's great founders that have like completely different traits, but there's like certain things that I look at, especially like with consumer. You know, I love people that like I can feel the hunger in them, and it maybe like kind of like attaches back to like to what you said about like really wanting to put a stamp, and like they want to be successful, they want to build a very successful business one way or the other. That's like one thing. Like if someone has like some sort of a chip on the shoulder, they really want to like prove something. They really want to like do something that's like transformational. You can kind of feel it from the call. And I feel like the interesting like observation I had is like, if you're having, there's certain categories where I feel very comfortable, like assessing a company from, like consumer, social, these types of things. I feel very like comfortable with like, you know, understanding who the founder is and exactly what I'm looking for. And I have this tendency when I actually don't have as much depth in a category. I was looking at something recently in quantum, which is totally not my thing. And like over there, I still don't have the radar of understanding like what is good, what is bad. But yeah, coming back to it, it's like it's being really hungry. It's being you know, can you really can you really ship product? And I don't care if it's like vibe coded or not. Like, are you able to like iterate on a product quickly? And is there any evidence of that? Have you like built startups in the past? And then is like your ability to go to market. And I think that's like one of the most important ones, because I've seen so many like beautiful products and great products where founders weren't just able to really get attention to it. And being very like, I really like people that are very novel about how are they going to get attention. I think sperm racing is a great example of that. It's like such a polarizing, you know, thing. And like you hear sperm racing, you immediately start paying attention. But, you know, being able to like go out there and make people care, especially if you're able to like capture like new subsets of people That's something that I'm like super excited about. And that's something I've been seeing with the younger founders, especially, is like they're not going for like the crypto natives necessarily. Like they might have a product leverages crypto and use it as a superpower, but they're getting like, you know, high school kids that like don't really know much about crypto, but then they're playing these like fun little games and stuff like that. And actually in the back, it's crypto.
That's very interesting. Actually, since we're both Europeans, like I would love to hear your take on that. It's like sometimes, like I feel like, you know, you're often behind. Like, oh, it means like there's like something cultural in there. You gotta take a step more out. Like I think for like Americans, it's like I think just like it just comes. So many things just come more natural. But like, would love to hear your take on like what can like I mean like. I think it's very interesting for the bubbles we're also in, the European bubbles. What can like what's like going wrong here? What can European founders do? What can like where's the differences there? Like I think you somewhere, I don't know if it was at some super team event here or so, like, but like you one time talked about, and I found it very interesting, and I'd love to, you know, get your take on that.
Yes, but before I share my opinion, there's definitely a ton of spectacular European founders. And I mean, it's like I've got the privilege of being able to say stuff about like us as Europeans. And I'm not just talking about founders, but I think like there was a moment in time where I was actually like quite unexcited of like the majority in terms of like percentage of like how many like US based founders I get excited about versus like percentage of the European. And I think like with Europe, and especially, you know, both of us having roots in Poland, like I think we have incredible technical talent, and we have that, but and it really stems from multiple things. But I think it's just a huge cultural difference. Americans are selling themselves, and it shows, and that's why they're much better at raising. They're much better at actually getting attention to their product, and I feel like as Europe, we're a little bit too proud, and I'm not saying like this is like over for us. I'm actually. The past few weeks, I've been really excited about this Euro tech patriotism, which is something that like I don't think we've had before. But seeing things like ETN, which is like basically TBPN of Europe, like European Technology Network, you know, young guys like trying to really like promote like European entrepreneurship. I'm seeing like Europe really is trying to like get out of this rut of like us being like a little bit, you know, too proud. We're Europeans. We're the old continent. We're not gonna like oversell ourselves. And I think it's just a skill to develop. And I'm definitely like seeing a change. But yeah, there is something about like US founders. They really know how to like sell themselves. They really know how to like, show themselves, and you can kind of see like just look at like Twitter feeds, you know. And very often like Europeans are building incredible products. We have a marketing problem. Europe has a marketing problem. That's the issue. Plus, like obviously EU is cucking us in like 50 different ways, but like regulation is kind of a pain. But yeah, that's kind of a fixable issue that I've definitely seen. Like if I look at like consumer, it's harder for me to find like really cool consumer plays. We're good on infra side, you know, we've got the Redstones of this world. We've got a bunch of, I think, Li-Fi team as well. Like there's a lot of like really good products, but I'd like to see us do a lot more consumer stuff. Kind of suck it up, forget about being a proud European, and, you know, accept the fact that, as CEO of this company, you're meant to like market the fuck out of it.
Yes, 100%. Like actually, there's sometimes I personally also have this urge, like, man, I think I should just go to the US. Like it's like I feel like, you know, there's like a thing, like you feel home, like you feel home somewhere. Maybe you feel like, okay, there's like you try to tell yourself so many things don't matter, but like then you realize, damn, like maybe I just spawned in the wrong place, or like maybe I'm just being in the wrong place. I should go. Like sometimes I feel like. I think at least the good ones, or like the ones, what means the good ones, but like the ones who take this seriously enough should consider, or like probably had at least once the thought in their head, man, I gotta go to the US.
I mean, it definitely is, because it's like this El Dorado for us in many ways, and yeah, business happens quicker there. But you know, I wouldn't give up fully on Europe. I think like first of all, it's like our industry, like, man, like I've built a lot of my career from a tiny apartment in Warsaw. It's like very often not seeing people that like invested into social graph and stuff like that. And before I even came to 1KX, I've probably didn't meet like 90% of the team in real life. And that's like kind of the unique opportunity of crypto, and something that really sort of inspired me. Of like, you don't necessarily have to be in a specific place, but yes, it does help being in New York, just like the concentration of those events. But I mean, there is hubs. They're just not as big. There's Lisbon. I've just recently came back from a trip in London, and also like this. There's an actual
London
scene
is
there.
good. London is good.
Yeah, so things are happening, and like Paris is decent, Berlin is decent. Like there's definitely places. I'd say, yeah, in many ways, it's also like it's much easier to raise in the US.
Of course.
That's
and like maybe establish yourself.
Yeah.
I think, man, we touched on many things. Actually, like I remember last time we met in person, we were talking. I think this is now completely again gone, but like maybe like we almost had like 1 hour now. I think it's has been a good live stream, but like would love to still check on. We talked about mini games and abstract, like, you know, like we talked also just now about like. You have product market fit maybe temporarily, like, you know, you have like this moments where like, you know, things go very well, and like there has been some of those game sprinting, and maybe would love to hear your would love to still to catch on like those mini games, abstract, like a couple maybe things you see developing. Especially I feel like you are very deep into the base bubble, so like would love to hear your things on base. I like kind of like from like, I mean, I'm kind of like exposed to that, but not as much as you. So would love to take your take on that. And then I guess we had a very good live stream.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, like we briefly touched upon these like games on abstract. I honestly feel like abstract is kind of the discovery portal for like consumer, and like that's kind of like that's why it's like a place that feels like home, because like I actually come back to it like a couple of times a week, play these games, have fun. They're either like gambling, they're like games, other games. There's also Web2 games that are like coming out from like the Pudgy abstract ecosystem, like Pudgy Party, which is kind of like a Fall Guys, but like with penguins, which is also fun. I think that's like there's a like with certain things, it's kind of like this continuous like game, continuous app where like people come back for the same experience, and it can carry on. And some things like just aren't right for like they're more of like a short-lived, and you know, I think crypto the game, you know, something that definitely has deeply impacted like the crypto industry. I've played season 1 and I think maybe season 2 as well. It was great fun, but like, you know, at some point like the playbook has like ended basically. Like it wasn't fun anymore, because there's only a few of these, and in many ways I treat some of those like, and they could be like very much money making machines, and if it's like the right product team and stuff, they could be like continuously coming up with like those new games, but I would consider them as consumable content with like money involved. It's the same as like watching series on Netflix and things like that. You don't want to rewatch the same series again unless it was wildly good. But and I think there's a mix of that, and I think abstract has been doing a really good job on like the game side. The live streams are there. I think there's going to be a lot more like growth on the live stream side. But in terms of like, abstract has minted a few companies with like multi-million-dollar annualized revenue, and some of them have never even raised any capital. And I think that's actually quite impactful. They design like pretty simple, fun games of like trying to basically luck, win money, was it gacha, whatever else. But you know, these founders came to abstract. They created something that was so compelling that actually like they have a ton of runway. They don't even have to go for a VC raise, to be honest. Now, in terms of base trenches, it's an interesting one. I actually came back from Vermont about a month ago's base camp. I'd say a lot of people are still very excited about like these mini apps, and I don't think a mini app is like your like it's not a full-fledged product. I consider mini apps on like the base app or mini apps on Farcaster as kind of a go-to-market. You should be tapping into those ecosystems to actually acquire those early users. Go to World as well. But in the end, like as an app founder, you want to own the end consumer relationship. And I would treat these as these like ephemeral, short-lived things that potentially could be a good funnel for you to onboard people into your app that are already like crypto native. They understand crypto if they're on the base app. What has been very promising and something that I always thought that Base and Farcaster, sometimes it felt like they're a little bit like too, net neutral and philosophical, and not wanting to embrace like, degeneracy, which is something that's like such a core piece of so many crypto users, like of their DNA. But finally, like, Jesse's like shilling coins out there. Every post on the Base app is a token. Farcaster recently acquired Clanker, and this finally, I've been a big believer into Clanker since 1 week when they launched. Like that was actually about a year ago. I had the first conversations with the founders of Clanker because it felt like a very, very compelling experiment, the leading launchpad on Base. And that acquisition, I think, was also like the reason why right now, like Farcaster's at like all-time high in terms of daily active users. People like that, and it's really great to see, like, Coinbase and the alumni of Coinbase, because Dan was at Coinbase at some point in his life as well, embracing like the true crypto DNA and really trying to like go into the trenches. And Clanker recently, like they finally have buybacks, something like a lot of people have been waiting for years. It was this token that like everybody kind of knew eventually, but like finally like those fees are being funneled to it. And I think that is the right move. And I really like the new sort of refreshed Base Farcaster trenches vibe of like actually like playing like, trading tokens is fun. Like being a DJ is fun, and people love it. So stop like trying to stay away from it. Like let people do what they want and embrace it.
Yes, no, that's the right way actually. Like also like right now with the X402 memes and like which is like happened a couple of days ago. That has been like now there's like narratives, but the narratives get amplified from like degeneracy. Like there's no reason that like you don't need X402 meme coins, but like now everyone talks about it because it's an amplifier after all, and this now works. They understand that like I'm very bullish on. And like you mentioned acquisition, I feel like this has been also a trend over the last half years. Like we got to a point where there's like crypto M&A. Like now there's like that's like real now.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a core part of what we've been doing since day one, and there's no avoiding it. It's just trying to like, and I think one thing that I wanted to add is like we tokenize stuff way too early sometimes, but in many ways it's actually like a spur of a lot of people, like, and I feel like we're sometimes losing to AI, is like the new talent is rather going to go for that 500K annual salary, work at an AI company versus crypto. But I'd say like AI agents, like that meta was like pretty interesting. Virtuals like totally popped off. I don't know, $3.5 billion at some point. But in many ways, like these moments like inspire a lot of builders, and they continue like keeping at it. And I think we're getting like a new AI agent meta with like X402. I'm seeing a lot more new builders and stuff like that. And it's kind of like this progress that we're making, actually like new technology and new cool use cases. So sometimes this like hyper gamblifying of things early on that may be like vaporware to some extent, in the end results in a lot of people getting involved and actually new primitives popping up, 6 to 12 months later. And this from becoming a trend, becoming an actual like established category, which is proving to be useful. Like I'd say like the intersection of like these co-pilots and like these sort of AI interfaces for trading, the Ginas and things like that of the world, where you can basically like control your portfolio, set up strategies through natural language, is also something that's like net new, and it's kind of started with like the AI agents meta, but is now like becoming a lot more advanced and a lot more interesting.
100%. Actually, I mean, like there has been like many reasons to hate on AI agent meta, but like there has been like some good things coming out of it. But yeah, actually, I think we had a good. Just like this is one last question that I find very interesting now, is since we just mentioned acquisitions and like the stuck right now with me, is like, do you now see, because like there's like, of course, when you invest in things, there's like, is the ROI going to look like, will there be a token? And like now for many scenarios, there's like has been pretty much only like token as a exit event happening. I think also for VCs. But is there now, let's say, with the trend of like acquisitions happening and like, there's like, I feel like recently I see every couple of weeks at least one acquisition on my timeline happening. So is that now also become a thing where like you see, okay, like I think in Web2 it's very common to like have like acquisitions being part of like exit strategy, like from like the investment thesis. Is this now more becoming also a thing like in, let's say, for crypto VCs or like in general, like in professional investment in crypto?
I'd say yes. I mean, it really depends. Like for us, like 1KX, we've always been like a very token focused fund, but and it's about like designing the right sort of token model. You know, that's why revenue is so important, because if you're basically imitating the stock market, if you're doing like buybacks and stuff like that, then it really resembles that. And that's one thing. But yeah, of course, there is definitely, you know, acquisitions are happening, especially on like the stable coin stuff. That's kind of like anything from like a capital formation with obviously with Echo, but I'd say there's a lot of around like very large fintech companies trying to, you know, realizing how much easier would it be to have like crypto rails for, you know, global payments, for just like, you know, reducing the fee for users transacting, and that's definitely like a very ripe sort of acquisition market. You know, Stripe with Privy was like actually a pretty fascinating move, and it made total sense. You know, Stripe is like putting GDP online, and now they're going to be putting it on chain.
Yeah, it's crazy. No, man, that's actually very interesting when you think about it. But yeah, man, I think like, do you have actually any questions to me, or like anything you would like still to talk about?
How are the trenches? What's happening lately in your trenches, man?
In my trenches, oh yeah, I didn't talk about that. So we have been working. Oh man, I will send you some like on Telegram some stuff as well. So like recently, what has been happening? Like this has been like pretty much the last 2 months was Funny Money like making a 180. So like one thing also like we talked about, and like I feel like I'm like definitely going towards too as well, is okay, things don't work in a certain way, that sometimes like that, or like things work but don't work with you. This can also happen, is like especially, you know, in certain things. So yeah, like I've been pretty much like focusing on Funny Money becoming fully mobile. So we have been working on that. We basically become a mobile wallet and trading app. So that's like what we're going for now. And two things that have been very important for this with us is passkeys, and just like passkeys exclusive, like Infinex has it. So this has been a big inspiration, and like very fast onboarding. So to on-ramp directly into tokens and opening positions directly from Apple Pay. So this has been like a big focus. And of course, like you know, the power of trading focused social graph to like leverage retention and like get people to care. So this has been pretty much what I've been focusing on. And this has been like pretty much like my main focus for like the last 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. And this is pretty much what I've been busy on. So we have been, I mean, you know, as you know, like we did previously a lot of, like I was working on Mental, doing Launchpad and trading terminal Mental. This has been the start with Funny Money. We then made a very hard cut, and this has been, I don't know if you saw it on Twitter, but like I blacked out my Twitter at some point and like said, yeah, experiment failed, everything cut over. This was like actually a good attention grabber. Like, hey, I found some entry from that, deleted all tweets and just like made a fresh restart. And I felt like this has been for me a thing. I now put so much energy into building this brand, and like doing that is like, even if I pivot or do something completely from scratch, and like I kind of like have a personal attachment to that brand, that like I still want to do it under the same brand, and that I have been, you know, putting so much energy to. So I'm basically doing something completely new, but like use and leverage the same brand, Funny Money, which I still think is it's just a too good name to just throw away. And like this has been like mainly the focus. So yeah, we have been working on mobile, and like this has been like pretty much for the last 2 months. The trenches for me is like getting the right team together. Like I have luckily also in-person team. So this nice. Like in Warsaw, which I really care about a lot. This has been very great. and yeah, like pretty much focusing on that. I have been like playing around with a lot of different things, also getting into content. This is for me very important. I feel like I'm right now personally in a transition period, like in my career. Like that's what I realized is like I don't see myself that much more as like a pure builder. I don't want to be. I want to be more of a. I see myself growing into more of a creative direction and more of a also doing content direction, more of a business side of things as well. That's where I see myself growing. I feel like for me personally, there's just like way much more growth in that direction. So this has been like a big focus for me. And yeah, aside of that, like have been in Singapore network school. This has been cool traveling. And yeah, that's like pretty much that. Like one sad thing with net, like I tell you, and I didn't care on camera, is like there has been like some switches. So like there has been, I mean, like you probably know, like also some people from entity, there has been a complete cut and switch in like the whole team, and everything changed there. Bybit came in and made like big changes. Which also was like okay at that, like now they're embracing pretty much consumer and like retail, and they really want to push it to become the next BNB chain. I'm very bullish on MNT as an asset and like actually its chain. I think there's also such a thing as being too early, which I have been definitely there, because now I really think like they're gonna establish it as like because like Bybit is putting significant resources now as to establish the chain, and I can see a world where like it becomes a BNB level chain at some point. But I'm not there that much to stick around for that. Like I felt like at some point chains are not our friends. Chains are like enablers, and you need to like take care of yourself and like find product market fit and find success at all costs, and like you can have that through a chain, because there's like things that work on Base, they wouldn't work on another chain. There's things that work on Solana that wouldn't work on another chain. It's not this is not a technical thing. It's like a distribution thing and culture thing, and but sometimes it's just also like you got to be the right person with the right product at the right time in the right bubble, connected in the right cabal. And
yeah,
there's like you just take one thing out of that equation and everything falls apart. This has been that a bit the case there, I feel. And yeah, like now pretty much bullish on like very bullish on mobile, and very bullish on like this becoming a narrative where like I can hopefully position myself as a category winner at that. Like that's like what I'm very, very aiming for.
When can I test the app, man?
In the Sergey, when I'm here with someone from my team. Hey, what's up? When test flight?
When test flight? I mean, I think like yeah, it's a lot of stuff. Like tomorrow will be like another day.
Yeah, like in the next couple of days. In the next couple of days. So
send me a link. And probably one last question is like, obviously aside of Funny Money, what's your like favorite consumer crypto app right now?
My favorite can be a few. Aside of Funny Money, man. Like I gotta give it to. Obviously, it's like I go for the same market. So it's like I don't know if you can call it competition or not. Like I've been definitely like starting on it like 8 weeks ago, before like the formal conversation was pretty much around. But I gotta give it to them. Like I have. My phone is just dead now, but like I have I really love the notifications from them. So like I had a phase now where like, especially like when I did like product research and like thought, okay, I really want to do mobile. Well, like I forced myself to use only mobile, and this was like for everything. I forced myself to like my Sex account Bybit, I only used it mobile. I only used everything mobile to really like force myself to understand what are pains if like I would want to live in a mobile only world. And like what I really liked is Liquid. It's like Liquid is a mobile interface for Hyperliquid. I like that. And then FOMO I like. Then yeah, those are, I think, pretty much like the two ones that I'm like I get like daily notifications. Those are apps that I open every day. And aside of that, probably like, and I see actually crypto as a Twitter I see as a consumer app for crypto as well. Like I think it's like Twitter and Twitter FOMO mobile, Twitter FOMO and Liquid. Those I would say are the 3 cool ones. And before I forget, this has nothing to do with crypto. And I really, man, like I wish I could show it on my phone right now. There's this app called No Place. Maybe you heard of it. It's like it's in the US. It was #1 in the US App Store. It's a Gen Alpha social media app. It has nothing to do with crypto. And they have this beautiful thing. Actually, do you have FOMO? Do you have No Place on your phone? Too bad. I will send you a link. Like actually, you can find it. No Place. It's a
make
Gen
No
Alpha.
Place make new friends. I'll give it a spin.
Yeah, and the nice thing what they have is they like I will call it manifestation score on Funny Money. They like this is something like I will just like steal this from them. It's they don't have likes. They have like you hold on a tweet or on a post, you hold it clicked, and there's like a very hard haptic feedback and like just confetti throwing around everywhere in the counter that goes up. So you can not just give 1 like, you can give unlimited likes. You just hold it pressed, and then it just gives likes, and then like you can give like 10,000 just pure dopamine. Like also this is what I'm really focusing on is pure dopamine. It's like just like give 10,000 likes. You can give like a single post 10,000 likes. It's just like, and you just keep it pressed because it's cool. It's just like, you get that vibration, you get the confetti flying around. And like one thing I wanted to do from that is like, I call it manifestation score. So you can hold basically pressed on the chart, and like you will just have like confetti flying around. And like then there will be a global manifestation score. And like people can just like, on the leaderboard push the like token that they want to like have the most real estate on the app, or like visibility, not by necessarily buying it or so. They just hold press the thumb on the chart, and like it sprays around confetti and gives you like just a score that a number that goes up. And it's just like it's just retarded, no utility, but it's like one of those things that are just like look cool and feel cool. And I feel there's like definitely I met the founder actually here in Warsaw. She's from the US, and just randomly met her and had a lunch, and like got to talk about it. And like there's so much creativity in non-crypto things that like I feel like there's like also a lot to get inspiration from there. And this has been like when it comes to UI UX inspiration, very good. And Spotted in Prod. I don't know if you know this website, Spotted in Prod.
Yes,
you should.
Yeah. Cool.
Like I've been like hanging out on this website a lot for UI inspiration. So like those I would say like are like my main crypto apps that I use. Aside of, let's say, like I would say I do a lot of trading on actually there's like one project that is being farmed very heavily recently, which is extended. Like it's a like perpdex. So like
lighter.
Extended. It's has been. It's like was built by an ex-Revolut team. So
nice.
Yeah, so that's. But yeah, like farming a bit here and there. But like I don't have time too much to farm. So yeah.
Cool, man. It was good chatting.
It was very good chatting. Yeah, man, I think we will have a. Sorry, go ahead.
Congrats on like ramping up the content. It's incredibly important.
Yes, it is. And like I will do more crazy stuff. Like actually, I have like a couple of cameras now. I like live streaming is one part of it. I wanted to do like some content series, like more. Actually, it is also fun. Like I actually like to put myself out there. Like I like it actually. I want myself to be on people's timelines. Like I like that. So
very cool.
Cool.
It was a pleasure, man.
Was a great pleasure, and yeah, like hopefully we're gonna catch up somewhere in person, and I would have maybe I don't know if I will go. I don't know yet. I would probably go to Abu Dhabi for a breakpoint, but like I feel like Argentina would be not very productive for me. I would just hang out with friends, and like I feel like it's just the same faces. Like I have more value from my office to create.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Cool. Well, I'll hopefully see you soon.
Yes, man. We'll also follow up with some stuff.
Yeah. All right. See ya.